What's up, everybody? Yeah, I'm too cheap to get a phone holder. Of course, I'll say that and probably end up finding one cheap and end up grabbing it. But I don't want to be like those little furry fucking TikTok people with the lights and the stands and all. Yeah, fuck that. I'm redneck. I'll just find something to prop it up on. So sue me. Anyway, um, that's also why I don't do all the fancy editing and ta-da! Look at this. Look at that. Look at this. Man, I'm real. I'm uncut. I'm live. It's just me. Also do that to show there ain't no bullshit. Because once you start trying to edit videos and all that stuff, then, well, they know how to edit. Did they mess with other stuff? So I'm kind of not even wanting to learn it because of that. If I don't know it, then people can't accuse me of editing things, and changing them from the original form. Even though it'd be cool to, catch people's eyes so they pay attention better, but that's all right. It'll get around. I figured my men from MGTOW and all that would be in here, listening to this story and telling me how shit was. Because there's a lot of them are some brutally honest people. So, a lot of them, not all of them. So, I was hoping they would come in and give an unbiased opinion. Kind of like I don't really want to call him a Marine buddy, but we were pretty much friends. I didn't really know him that well. I met him on TikTok with another girl named Michelle. Well, she was single at first, but she ended up, meeting him, which was cool because those two seemed to, you know, be like two peas in a pod. Really, they really seemed like they made a good couple. Um, I was very happy for him, but she was, going to meet him, and she was having me, track her location and all this stuff every hour, blah blah blah. So just to make sure, wasn't somebody crazy, not trying to upset the dude or anything like that. Just trying to make sure the girl was safe. And I did that until, all the way up until she got into his car and she was sleeping in the back seat. And I had called, and he seemed like, he wasn't showing any aggression. He was, just the way he was acting. Oh, I'll let her know when she wakes up, blah, blah, blah. Buddy, if that was your sister and she was with me and you didn't know me, you would be wanting me to make sure she was alive and not just laying in a back seat. So I'm not just gonna fall for, hey, she's sleeping. Show me she's sleeping. So he shows, and I'm like, poke her. Make sure she moves, reacts, says something, then she can go right back to sleep. Yeah, I was being a dick. I wanted to make sure. So he did, and she's, I'm fine. I said, all right, I'll leave you all alone. And I did. I still had her uh, tracking on her phone that she had sent to me, you know, tracking which way they were going. So I could make sure he wasn't lying or taking her off somewhere else, until he made sure the coast was clear. All corners were covered. Uh, After that, after they got back to where they were going, I told him, I said, look, man, she didn't know you. I don't know you. We were just making sure you were 100%, you know, doing what you said you were going to do. And he said, no problem. I understand. I probably would have done the same thing. You know, I don't know if that was just him being cordial, whatever. But, oh, my back hurts. Anyway, we're doing videos back and forth with both of them in it, me in it. They were talking to me about some of the stuff that the people were attacking on TikTok about. All of them were into witchcraft and, you know, LBGQ or whatever, the alphabet community. Same thing that Jazzy and her mom's into, and Tiffany. Tiffany's a part of all those groups too. Yeah, fucking sickos. Anyway, um, he knows that I've always wanted to be in the Marines. I've tried a couple times, but background stuff. Even though I got cleared of it, they were leery. And I did. I asked a lot of questions. I know I was told not to do that, but when my brain works, I want to know. So I think that got me in a little bit of trouble. But I wasn't trying to walk in there and be a dumbass and sign a fucking contract for my life, being basically a target painted on it and, not getting what I wanted out of it. Because I know that was one thing they told me to watch out for. Because recruiters will do that to you. They'll promise you the world and then fuck you over if it's not written. So, but yeah, everything else I passed. It was like the final decision, and they just decided not to. I was mad. Oh, I wanted to be an officer so bad. That's why I went and hurried up and got my college credits for computer networking. Yep. Oh, I was so pissed. Whoa, so mad. Because you had to have 4 college credits and, you know, certain things to be able to be an officer. So, and I wanted that fucking uniform. Then, as I'm going through everything, I started doing a lot of more research, looking at a lot more videos, things like that, talking to my Uncle Ronnie, my Uncle Jimmy, uh, Joey, um, pretty much everybody that I knew, and grew up with that was in military, and my Uncle Bill. Uh, I have a lot of people in my family. That's just a couple of them that were part of the military, and they ain't too shabby, if you know what I'm saying. But anyway, yeah, a couple of them were 101st Airborne. A couple of them were 180. Uh, it's over 101. I forget. 180 something airborne. It wasn't the 82nd Airborne. I have a few in that too, especially younger ones. But that was something different. 101 Airborne is now the other one is even whoa. Right. I'm not saying anything. I'm not allowed. But anyway, um, yeah, I really fucking wanted it, and I trained my ass off for it before I even got it. And I did every research I had to talk to veterans and all that, figured out what the PT were and how to do them, and what was expected, what was max, what was considered mediocre, because I wanted max. I wanted to be the best motherfucker I could be. So that's what I shot for. The max was my normal. Then I seen the video of my buddy John. We called him Jay. And he was at a press conference and he's ripping his medals off his chest, talking about all the bad shit that they did over in Iraq and some other shit that I was just completely shocked. And that got me thinking about, the fact that it's very possible that the higher ups are sending them over there, getting them to do that kind of shit under false orders, getting them to sign up, making them believe that they're, you know, going out to be true heroes, and really they're getting put up to do orders for basically the rich elites, because that's what they use: military, money, and media. And it's the elites, it's not just our government. Our government is their security system, not ours. Well, if you notice, with all the riotings and all that, they didn't start sending, you know, heavy military until businesses were really being destroyed and costing big business money. Then the president says, "Oh, we're sending in military." Right. Because they're donors, the ones that, pay all the money to run the show, even though we're giving billions in tax money. Right. I haven't quite figured out how all that's working, but I know the basics of it. I don't know the details, but I know the basics. Yep. And that's why I laugh every time Patel says something about, well, yeah, we were following. You ain't following shit. If you were following the fucking money like you're supposed to, like everybody else knows how to do, and it's one of the oldest tricks in the fucking book. Obviously, they need money to operate, so if you find it and pay attention, you can see where it's coming and going from. Duh. Some of it is an educated guess because they're going to hide it this way or that way, or use patsies or lackeys to do it. Just like we've seen in all these assassination attempts, just like we've seen in every fucking thing else they've ever done throughout history. I mean, common sense tells you it's them. And yeah, they're doing it under a blanket to where you can't really catch them. You know it. Kind of like Law Abiding Citizen movie. They knew it, but they couldn't get him. Just like Tiffany. We know it, but the law won't do it. Imagine that, how they all work under that little blanket. I'm sorry, if you know these people are doing this, and you know that it would put a stop to a lot of evil shit going on, you should be able to put a stop to it. It should not be against the law to do that. Educated guessing and getting people to confess is exactly how most cases were solved. The problem is, because of those cases and the fact of people evolving from what they see, they're going to lie, they're going to manipulate, and they're going to do what the other one should have done in that position. Because everybody says it when they watch it. Oh, they should have done this. They would have never been caught. It's like the people on YouTube giving out fucking what our military and shit are doing. Oh, we're getting ready to give this president some hell. You stupid fuck, shut up. Well, now you're going for their orders? Here's the deal. We don't have, we would if people would come together and, you know, notice and do the right thing, but we don't have that. Okay, so that scratches out the fact of poor people being able to override what these rich people are capable of doing. The reason they're capable of doing it is because they are in everybody's pocket. They control their family and their livelihood. Imagine that. This is why they wanted your land, your water. Yeah. So they could use you as a puppet. And they could do experiments on you whenever they want. That's what putting stuff in food was. That's what big pharma is. And they play to us like we're 2-year-olds. 2-year-olds. Oh, you're the greatest. Oh yeah, without you, it's a bunch of bullshit. I mean, it is true, but what they're doing behind our backs shows that they don't respect that. That's not really why they are doing what they're doing. That's the way it's supposed to be, and that's the way it should be, right? But yeah, that's the reason why life is unfair. That's the reason why things aren't always what they seem. This is why most people believe a lie before they believe the truth. And I'm talking about factual truth because they've even perverted the word truth now. Oh, there's 3 truths. No, there's not. That's very fucking delusional thinking. There is only one factual fucking truth. In situations, you can have 2 people spitting different versions of those facts out. It can be that neither one of them are being factual, truthful. They are being delusional, truthful, as in how they feel it felt to them. That's witchcraft. Uh huh. This is why it's so hard to get to the bottom of shit. Yes, because eventually you have to have somebody telling the truth. Now they did this. Yes, this is what I did. This is why I did it. Yes, this is what happened. And if it's on video, it matches. Another one's going to maybe be using some of that, but twisting it. It happens in every scenario. There is never a scenario where both sides are admitting to who actually was in the real wrong. There are guys that have accepted being in the wrong when they were not. I've not seen too many women do that. Not when it's something big. If it's something little like bumping into somebody or something they know is going to be let go, then yeah, they'll admit to it, kind of. But a lot of times, they can be lying about that. It'd be completely intentional. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. And they forgive them and let them go. And as the girl's walking away, you see all the phases and what they're saying to their friends. Fucking bitch thought it was a baby. But yeah, that's what makes it, so difficult. And that's why you got to pay attention to individuals because individuals will do all kinds of crazy different things. So you got to pay attention to individuals. It's hard to do that because there's so many fucking avenues and la 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 la. And yeah, that's a lot of that confusion stuff is from the man downstairs. What is he? The king of confusion. So if you can't get two people to agree on stuff and blah blah blah, one of them's fucking evil. Maybe both. And I see exactly what the Bible's been talking about, as in, you know, towards the end times, good will be taken as bad and bad will be taken as good. Now, if you tell the truth, you are bad. If you do the right thing, you are bad. But if you do the wrong thing, you get rewarded. Hmm. Sounds like the Antichrist system was all the world leaders and the elites taking over. All of them. Maybe that's what the 11 horns and the beast with the two horns is all about. The leaders. Who leads the United States? President, vice president, or Pope and president, right? Okay, well, the 11 horns on the one beast coming out of the sea, which can be a sea of people, which means can be a big group of people. Sounds like Europe, sounds like the papacy, because it can be interpreted as that. Very well, could be. Sounds like it. One had a face, one was ripped out and then, put back. Sounds like the Pope. But that could also go for the Antichrist because he comes as a face. He gets says after 3.5 years he gets taken out and his deadly wound is healed. So maybe that's depicting the rip out and a new one coming back. Maybe it stands for both of them at the same time because it does say that things are going to come in birth pains. But if what if that's one of the birth pains? Where it's like woo, 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 woo. Kind of like a dryer starting up or something, and then it's steady and it doesn't stop. What it means by birth pains. It's going to start off slow. It's going to give you hints that it's coming, and then all of a sudden it's going to happen, and then it's going to stay. And at the end of that is when Jesus comes, which is the baby being born type deal. That's when everything goes back to and mommy can kind of relax and recuperate. Yeah, that's what Jesus coming back is going to be for us. We can kind of relax and recuperate from all that we went through. It it's over. Now I don't know. All this could be major birth pains, you know. It never said Braxton Hicks, but who knows? It said birth pains. Maybe this is kind of like Braxton Hicks, showing us exactly what's coming. It's just maybe the timeline isn't exactly right for it yet. But then again, very well could be. Because we've had a lot of birth pains for decades, not just here recently. They've been increasing, which is another thing it says. It would increase. Time would get shortened. And how many people have you heard talking about every time I turn around, it's Friday again? What's going on? I've never heard anybody complain about that. That's a sign like, woohoo, I got paid again and didn't even notice my fucking week flew by. Right? Even though we don't want to get to talking about money and all that. Yeah. I really think that's the deception. And I think we already took it. The Bible rewritten with 66 books. I'm not saying it is. I'm saying it's possible that that's the mark. Because that is received in the right hand. Normally, people hold it with their right hand, flip through it with their left. Or they memorize it, which means it's in their head. We've already known that the devil was coming after this religion. So, and he did that after Jesus passed. And we do know that God's word will come true, but it is the devil's time to roam. We don't know. He is the king of deception. So, he could have, he's in the church. So he's getting around this religious thing somehow. Because if God was in the church, he wouldn't be in there. And he's in the church. So that doesn't mean he's not in the Bible. And he's already in the Papist or the Vatican. We know that for a fact. I don't know why, but the Pope has always reminded me of the story of Lucifer sitting in God's seat trying to be God on earth. That's what I've always seen when I've ever looked at the Pope and how they run things. I don't know. I could have it all dead wrong. I don't know. I could have all of it dead wrong. I don't know. This is just putting history together, coming through it, um, and just using logic as best I can. You know, educated guesses to connect dots. But that's just me trying to fill in the fine details of it. I already know the basics. Like I said, I know the basics. I'm just trying to fill in that fine tuning so I know it completely. And some of that fine tuning is deliberately never spoken about or shown. And this is why. Because people can say, well, that was never discovered. That was never in the record. So that has never been proven. To them, if it's not in the records or you know something like that they deem official, then it's not official. And that's a trick as well, because the people controlling that are very much a part of the stuff that goes missing, the way it's written, to deliberately deceive or scoot things away. So all that's very tricky. Just like the medical field, a lot of them deal with what? Blood, semen, etc., which is witchcraft. There is another type of medicine that was really, really wicked, and that was medicine doctor. Well, voodoo medicine doctors, but medicine doctors. Witches did the same thing, made potions and stuff to fix and heal things. Crystals was one of the things they tried to use. Then once I seen this crystal fad start coming out, and everybody's like, "Oh, this is for healing," and then I'm like, "Holy no! We need to bring the Salem witch trials back because, wow, yeah, that's blatant witchcraft right there. I mean, so there's a lot of things that I didn't even know was witchcraft. I should have. They come from technology that we weren't supposed to have to begin with. So obviously, nope. This is why Jesus died. He knew we were going to accept all this. He knew it. And that's why he said on the cross, "Forgive them. They know not what they do." Now, we should know. We know that a lot of this stuff came from, Greek or Roman gods, the fallen ones. Duh. That is so easy to connect. And then we took their technology and used it to get us away from Adam's curse. What is that? Taking the easy road. What does everybody know about the devil and God? God's way is hard. Devil makes it easy. What did we do? We accepted the easy way. What is everything about for selling? Making life easier. Or distracting you to where you waste it. But yeah, I'm a culprit of it. Yeah, that's how I figured it out. It's where you gain wisdom from is being a part of stuff, figuring it out, and either putting a stop to it or fixing it to where it's better. But yes, we get the fixing it to where it's better or whatnot to save time so we can waste it, not doing anything that, you know, the government or blah, blah, blah wants us to do. So basically, we have to be a good slave to get our time free. See how slavery didn't go anywhere? Just looks a little different. Manipulation. Yeah. They basically paint this picture in front of you that makes you believe that you have a choice, which is what George Carlin said. He's wrong about religion, but the fact that illusion of choice, yeah, that's there. That's why they have levels. That's why you have to go through certain things, and that's why certain people get plucked out and seem to have a golden horseshoe because they know they're going to do what they want them to do. No questions asked. And that's how they've created these evil little societies that are above everybody because they believe they are. They're no different than you and me. They have a lot of manipulation and pull now because they have gotten their hooks into so many people, kind of like Hellraiser, and these people know it. And what is the one thing they use against you? Your family, your life. You can have it easy, but you got to make it hell for all these over here first, and don't get caught. It's pretty much what they do. We all should know that from the blackmailing scheme that supposedly Israel tried to do. Oh, he was an operative. Oh, he was allowed to do that. He was a what? And he was allowed to do what? And this is coming from Israel? That tells you all you need to know right there. That's a bunch of bullshit. Ain't no fucking way you're going to involve kids and shit like that. Not unless you all are doing it. And you're using this as a cover. Oh, we're using it for stings. Well, that's funny because your operative, your supposed operative, was the only one that got in trouble for it. So if all he was doing was, even though I don't agree with this, but getting kids to get other people to get hemmed up, kind of like Chris Hansen was doing. He's the dark Chris Hansen. He was doing it along with them. See, Chris Hansen actually used people that were of age, that knew that, what they were doing. These children do not know what they're doing. And it's worse. They are manipulated into hiding it and going along with it for either more money and fame or death. I mean, look at the girl that supposedly gets hit by a bus out in the middle of nowhere in the Australian outback. And then she's on her fucking hospital bed, surrounded by people we don't know that are most likely a part of it. And she's telling you, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. What does the parents say? Oh, well, she was suicidal. Well, no shit. If she was that suicidal, she would have done this way before she was putting out all this information. I guarantee you she was pissed off about what happened to her. Yes, she was feeling suicidal because nobody would listen, but she was giving everything she had to get it out. And they attacked her. Why? Because people were going to say, well, she did talk about suicide. And not only that, the father and the grandfather, right? What do we know about a lot of these kids that are put into slavery? It's their fucking parents that are doing it. Have we checked into that? Guarantee you we haven't. Why? Because supposedly they're too powerful. Money doesn't fucking make you that powerful. That is an illusion. Just because you have money does not make you powerful. It makes you capable of doing things because people want that money. That is a false power. Put them in jail. Bankrupt them. Guess what? False power. Mm, 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 mm. I mean, that's very easy to understand. Very simple. And I don't know what it is about. For some reason, the simpler it is, the more we don't get it. We always think it's way more complicated than what it is. And it turns out it's not. This is why we get the saying, truth is stranger than fiction. Because we, as majority of us, not all of us, but for the most part, that's why it takes us forever to figure things out. A lot of the time. Because it's so damn simple. Just like a bunch of dudes that have been working on a fucking car and can't figure out what's wrong with it after they put it all back together and come to find out they did everything right and ain't got no gas in it. That's where that joke comes from. You're so distracted by all this intricate shit that it's the simplest fucking thing. No gas. And when you notice it, you're like, shit. And I've been in that position. I've watched people flipping the fuck out and it be just a bad battery. Or, they're sitting in the vehicle listening to their sorrow music because this vehicle's giving them so much trouble because it just won't start. It'll crank, do all this other stuff, and they're not even looking at the gas gauge. Gas gauge says E. I've walked in and seen people in that position and pointed that out plenty of times. They get so mad at me. Motherfucker, I've been here for 8, 10 hours trying to figure out there's fucking no gas, bro. You gotta laugh at it. It's already done now. Yeah. But that's what I mean. Sometimes the simplest of things can drive us insane because we think it's more complex than what it is. And it's because truth is stranger than fiction. And that's because we make it more complex than what it is. Not all the time, not everybody, but for the most part. Now, I'm pretty sure people have either seen it or done it. So, but yeah, I think that's why God and understanding how He works and all that is very hard for a lot of people, even some people that believe Him and everything. It's still very hard to see how simple He is. And it's because He's got to be ancient. I mean, wow. Think about it. If we lived for 900 years and all that, like Moses and all them, can you imagine the wisdom we would have? Just like they did. They were very wise. And I think that's why. It's because they went through hundreds and hundreds of years where they could perfect themselves and make themselves better. We don't get that. We get maybe 80 to 120, if 120 if you're lucky. But normally it's between, I'd say on average, around 70s or 80s. God did say He was going to shorten it. Sounds like He's shortened it a couple different ways, and I don't think we've, I don't think everybody's completely noticed. Yeah, I was an atheist. I grew up in the church and knew all that, and once I started, you know, getting into relationships and stuff, actually, by the time I got into a relationship with Jen and Tiffany, is when it started to kind of push me in. There ain't no way a God would allow all this stuff, and I was so mad at him, and thinking that you know we were just had to be just a part of science that basically overgrown mold that turned into insects and evolved into human beings over a long period of time, basically, because we have seen life create itself like that out of something like that. That's where you get gnats and flies and stuff like that coming off of stuff like that, and that is life basically off of nothing. But what you can't see is the microscopic stuff that causes that life or different life to occur depending on the elements it's in, which started getting me to think about, well, maybe that is, what happened, the Big Bang and all that. Then I'm starting to notice that, wait a minute, even though that all that did take place and that is possibly how it completely started, that's still God around it because water is Him, air is Him, all the elements that we take as just regular stuff is Him. That's why He always knows what has happened. That's why He, you know, and I started to realize all that. The breath He breathed into Adam was wind and His own breath. The water that He used to create Adam was part of Him. That's why it can't be duplicated. That's why real air, real oxygen can't be duplicated like it was back in the day. If they were that good at duplicating oxygen and all that, we would have machines up putting fresh oxygen out. And guess what? We already have those. They're called trees. God already did that. Yeah, everything that gets created in this world lives off of, everything that's in it. As in, the tree basically is a filter, and it grows to be a filter. As in, it takes in what we breathe out and gives us back what we breathe in. It's actually, like I said, it's very simple, but it's so simple that we think it's more complicated, and it's not. And that also shows that you had to have some type of creator, because why does the tree look like that? Why does it do that? Something had to create it. microscopically or whatnot, or make sure that the right elements came together to make it exactly what it is and what it does. It can't just do that. How how was it just by chance that these elements were there to make it, but nowhere else? It's not true. Because let's say for some odd reason they got past the firmament, okay, and let's say that they actually did discover planets, which I don't believe they discovered any of them. I don't believe any of the stuff they're showing us is true. About deep space, really don't. Now, near Earth objects, stuff getting ready to come in. That's another reason why I think meteors and all that stuff are demonic, because even though you can see a lot of that stuff, it's in a different realm, okay? A realm that we cannot see, but they can pass through stuff, which means they can come through the firmament and go back through it up into the different levels of heaven, but they're not allowed to go to the good levels, pretty much. Or maybe they're still fighting in heaven. I don't know yet. I'm just saying the fact that they can go through the firmament and we can't. And I think going through that firmament, if you find a way to, turns you demonic because you're not allowed to do that. Uh, Look what he did to the Babylonians because they were trying to build a tower to take over heaven. So you, buddy, knock that stuff off. Right, knocked it down. And look how much bullcrap it is to go through if you did ever build anything that a building that was high enough to go into space. Like, let's say there isn't a firmament and you can build a building that goes into space. Do you realize how much turbulence from the wind and the vacuum of space and all that, if it's even true, what it would be doing to that? It'd be tearing it apart. Right. And this James Webb, it's not real, but if it was, and what they were showing was real, they say that there's fire at the edge of the universe. There was other ones showing how they seen this beautiful little city at the edge of the universe. Now all of a sudden, oh well, they went further and found fire at the edge. Well, which is it? NASA, you got a lot of explaining to do because you have a film crew and a NASA crew out in the middle of the desert. Why? People have found it on Google Maps. Why? Pretty funny. It looks like Mars, especially if they add a little bit of red to it. Yeah, SpaceX is responsible for the 36 trillion missing from the Pentagon that they said went missing and they couldn't trace where it went. Remember when Doge said they found that and they couldn't find out where it went, so they couldn't recover it? But then you hear of SpaceX building a couple $100 billion freaking bunkers under the mountains over top of our oil that we haven't tapped yet. It's untapped oil. Now, this is also the guy that was a Democrat, then paid $45 million towards a campaign after the dude survived a hit, which I think all of that is just a smokescreen because Donald Trump was also a Democrat. Imagine that. But let's not get hung up on that yet. Let's stay to the facts. He owns SpaceX. SpaceX is directly responsible for hundreds of billions of dollars from the Pentagon for these bunkers. We're still unclear on exactly how much or how much they kept for themselves, but That would explain how Elon became so rich. And if he puts it in a trust like he did, he remains rich and uses that money, but it's not technically his, so nobody can ever take it from him. So now he basically owns those bunkers and the oil that's under them, and he's pushing for electric. So at some point, him or whoever's left that he leaves that to is going to own all the oil. Because sooner or later, Middle East and all them are going to be so low that they're going to have to be dependent on us. And you can already see they're selling this electric car stuff that really isn't working. Right? Right. So, there you go. Got to use your brain. They're not going to tell you, but look at the moves. Following the money, right? Right. It disappeared, or they said it disappeared for a reason. Elon. Remember how everybody said that, he was wearing Antichrist stuff and, you know, he's talking about how Chat GBT is like a demon and never works out for them in the movies because they always lose control and he thinks it's funny, but he's pushing it and selling it. Okay, fine. Ignore that too. Yes, you can be a very smart person and be a very good person. You can also be a very smart person and be a very bad person and nobody know it until it's too late. Like Bill Gates, like Soros, even though we've heard all the stories, we've caught all the evidence, and they're still free. Imagine that. So I guess nowadays monsters can show who they are, and as long as they got enough money or control, they can keep going. Wow. I can't believe us as people living on this planet, no matter what country you're from, is allowing this. Wow. But yeah, I've put a lot of this stuff together. So there you go. I'm sure other people can add to it. So